What if your strongest temptation is actually the sign of your highest calling? Could it be that the battlefield of your body is sacred ground being prepared for glory? And what if what you thought was shame is actually spiritual preparation for power? Have you ever felt that inside you there is an invisible war, a desire that invades you in the silence of the morning and that seems to take you away from the presence of God, even when your heart only wants to get closer to Him? Why do those chosen by God face the most intense struggles within the soul? Why do those who carry light undergo such dark temptations? Is there something behind this silent battle that no one sees? The truth is that many of those chosen live a struggle that they dare not tell anyone about, a war between spirit and flesh, a tension between holiness and desire. And this pain is often mistaken for weakness, when in fact it can be one of the greatest spiritual signs that there is a hidden purpose being activated. Yes, that's right. The Bible is full of mysteries that reveal how the chosen ones have always been intensely tested, especially in the field of body and soul. Do you feel like no one understands you when you talk about your sensitivity? Do you have spiritual dreams, premonitions, gifts that you can't explain, but at the same time you are attacked precisely in your most intimate area? This is no coincidence. It is spiritual warfare. The sexual desire that confronts you may be proof that there is something much greater wanting to be born within you. Because when heaven marks a person, hell tries to seduce the flesh. The chosen are separated from the womb. This means that your body, yes, this body that today appears to be a battlefield, already carries a mission. And the enemy knows this. Therefore, he tries to contaminate the temple even before the anointing is activated. But you feel deep down that this fight is not just carnal. She is spiritual. It's as if something invisible is trying to stop you from reaching the next level. And at the same time, you feel like God is silent. But God's silence for the chosen ones is always preparation. Have you ever read about Joseph in Egypt, Daniel in Babylon, or even Jesus in the desert? Everyone was chosen. Everyone was separated. Everyone was tested to their core. Temptation is the sign that something powerful is being created. And the most intense attacks come just before a great spiritual revelation. This is happening to you too. Don't think that this fight is just yours. It is common among those who have been marked by purpose. Those who carry a very strong light often attract shadows. And sometimes these shadows manifest themselves in the form of desire, lack, silent addictions, or thoughts that shame you. But God does not shame you. He prepares you. And what seems like weakness can actually be an urgent call to sanctification. You are not here by chance. If this struggle has been growing within you, it is because something is being activated in the spiritual world. And perhaps until today, no one has explained to you the real reason why you are going through all this. But now, something is going to reveal itself. A key will turn because what you're facing isn't punishment, it's preparation. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about now. But before continuing, tell me something here in the comments. Have you ever felt like your biggest enemy lives inside you? That the biggest struggle is not outside but inside your mind, your thoughts, your desires? If yes, right here, this struggle is real, but I am a chosen one. Let's turn this space into a safe place where others can open up too. Because when one chosen one shares their pain, they silently strengthen another. Leave your like now and subscribe to the channel, because here you will find spiritual direction, prophetic consolation, and revelations that no one else is saying. Each video we post is made for those who have a calling and experience trials that the world does not understand. Now let's delve deeper into the truth that few have the courage to speak. Why do God's chosen ones face so much struggle in the sexual field? Because this intimate pain hides a spiritual mystery, and you will understand. Have you ever noticed that the more you seek to consecrate yourself, the more intense the temptations become? That the closer you get to God, the more your flesh seems to scream. This is no coincidence. It's not weakness. It's not a deviation. It's a sign that there is a real calling on your life, because the body of the chosen one is not just flesh. It is a spiritual channel. This is the first reason that almost no one has the courage to say the body of the chosen one is a spiritual channel. He was separated. he was anointed. It carries frequencies, codes, gifts, and accesses that the spiritual world recognizes both on the light side and the dark side. And because of that, he is attacked. The enemy does not waste ammunition on those who are lost. He invests heavily in those who carry something rare. And if your body has been a battlefield, perhaps it is because it was created to be an altar. The desire you feel is not just carnal, it is energetic, vibrational, spiritual. You feel the touch of the invisible. Your skin picks up signals, your soul perceives movements, and behind this intense desire there is a sensitivity that is rare. The body of a chosen one is not just anybody. He was marked from the womb, and even if you don't understand it yet, your biology already carries a mission. That's why you may have felt impulses, desires that don't match who you really are, because part of you is being pulled away from your center. And that in part needs to be understood, not suppressed with guilt. What the enemy tries to do is dirty what God has set apart. He knows that if he can corrupt the channel, he will delay the flow of the anointing. And here comes the second reason. The sexuality of those chosen is a strategic target. Understand this with spiritual maturity. Sexual desire is not something dirty. He was created by God. But it can also be manipulated, distorted, used as a tool of distraction, fall, and even self-sabotage. The greatest anointed ones in the Bible were tested in this area. Samson, David, Solomon, even Jose. Everyone went through tests that involved the body and desire, because where there is a lot of power, there is a lot of testing. The enemy knows that sensuality is one of the most subtle ways of imprisoning the soul. It is something that affects the mind, body, and spiritual energy. And with the chosen ones, this becomes even more intense. Have you ever felt that all it takes is a small trigger, an image, a thought, a memory, to awaken a whirlwind of emotions within you? This is common among those who have a calling, because the soul of the chosen one is like an open field. Everything enters with more force. But what the enemy doesn't tell you is that the chosen ones also have the ability to rise with the same intensity as they are tempted. That's why the attack is so strategic. The sexuality of the chosen one is one of the most targeted areas, because this is where intimacy with God, consecration, and even spiritual authority pass. A body dominated by impulses tends to live in constant guilt, which weakens faith and confuses identity. But a body understood as a temple becomes a portal of healing, power, and liberation. That's why you need to see this fight with the right eyes. The enemy doesn't just want to lead you into sin. He wants to keep you confused about who you are. Now let's go to third reason. The spiritual sensitivity of the chosen one amplifies everything. You feel too much, think too much, notice details that no one notices. Your emotions are not shallow. They are oceanic. When you love deeply. When you feel pain, it is a pain that burns inside. When you are tempted, it is as if you are being pulled by something invisible. This is not an exaggeration. This is spiritual sensitivity. Your energy system is more open. This means that you capture more energies, intentions, desires, presences. And this sensitivity also affects the sexual area. A touch for you is not just a touch. A look at you is not just a look. A memory can make you relive entire emotions as if they were happening right now. And all of this can become a fertile field for desire, especially if you are emotionally vulnerable. It's not that you're weaker, it's just that you're more sensitive. And this sensitivity needs to be taken care of, because if it is ignored, it turns into anxiety. If it is repressed, it becomes guilt. If channeled poorly, it becomes an addiction. But if it is understood, it becomes spiritual power. The prophets of the Bible were sensitive. The visionaries, the dreamers, the chosen ones. They all carried a deep soul. And it is this depth that also brings intensity to desires. Don't run away from it. Understand this. Your intensity is part of your calling. Sexual desire, when understood and channeled, can transform into creativity, healing energy, spiritual strength. That's why it's so important to talk about it truthfully. No more carrying guilt for something that could actually be a sign of your divine separation. Yes, desire can become a trap, but it can also transform into self-control, elevation, maturity, and that's what we're going to keep talking about. But first, I want you to write here in the comments if this made sense to you. Or if you have already gone through silent battles in this area and no one ever understood what was going on inside you, comment, "My pain has a spiritual root." This will help us strengthen this community of people who, like you, are awakening to the truth about who they are. And if you haven't liked this video yet, enjoy it now. This shows YouTube that this message needs to reach more people like you who are struggling in silence, unaware that they are being trained by God. And subscribe to the channel because this is the place where pains gain a voice, where the chosen ones find direction, and where each video is a revelation. Have you ever wondered why in the moments when you need connection most, it's precisely when you feel most alone? Have you noticed that on the quietest nights, in the early mornings, when everything seems deserted, that's when the desire comes, with more strength? This is not random. There is a spiritual intelligence behind this. Isolation is one of the oldest dark strategies to weaken the chosen ones, and that's the fourth reason for which you live this silent fight. Isolation breeds emptiness, and emptiness seeks pleasure. The enemy knows that the human heart, when it is empty, becomes a fertile field for anything that promises relief. And pleasure, especially sexual pleasure, is one of the quickest ways to fill, even momentarily, an emotional hole. The problem is that then comes guilt, shame, regret, the feeling of distance from God. And this cycle further fuels isolation. It's a subtle but extremely effective trap. Those chosen are often isolated. It's part of the process. Moses was taken from the palace. Elijah hid in the cave. John the Baptist lived in the desert. Jesus spent 40 days alone being tempted. Isolation comes before anointing. But when the chosen one does not understand the reason for his loneliness, he tries to fill it in any way. And that's when pleasure becomes an escape, not an expression of love or spiritual connection. Desire in these moments appears as a solution, but it is a false solution. He promises relief but delivers prison. And that's why it's so important to understand that this fight is not just about will or self-control. She is a war between two natures, between what the soul desires and what the spirit calls for. Here comes the fifth reason. There is a constant war between the spirit and the flesh. The Apostle Paul described this with absurd clarity. The good I want to do, I don't do, but the evil I don't want, I continue to do. This is the portrait of the soul of the chosen one in conflict. You want to please God. You want to live in holiness. You want to be light, to be a channel, to be a temple. But at the same time, there is a part of you that is fragile, needy, human. A part that feels, that desires, that cries out for touch, for affection, for pleasure. This struggle is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of humanity. And even more, it is a sign of sanctification, because those who are spiritually dead do not feel this battle. Only those who are being transformed feel internal conflict. Only those who are being shaped from within feel this pressure. The enemy does not need to fight anyone who is already on the ground. He targets those who are getting up, in those who are awakening, in those who are returning to see their true identity in God. And maybe that's exactly why you've been feeling these attacks so strongly over the last few days. Because something is being formed within you. You are being aligned with your calling. And when this happens, the spiritual field moves. Everything around you starts to react. Your flesh screams. His spirit groans. Your emotions fluctuate. But in the midst of all this, there is a path to elevation. A path of renunciation that does not weaken but strengthens. And that brings us to sixth reason. The purity of the chosen one is a spiritual weapon. Yes, a gun, a strength that few understand. In a world where everything is exposed, where everything is sexualized, where everything is stimulated for immediate pleasure, living in purity becomes an act of spiritual warfare. We are not talking about perfection. We are not talking about repression. We are talking about conscience domain on purpose. Every time you resist a temptation that almost knocked you down, you climb a step into the invisible. Every time you choose to pray, even with a heavy heart, you emit a frequency that hell cannot support. Each renunciation, however painful it may be, becomes an altar, a secret place where God plants a new portion of His presence in you. Purity is not the absence of desire, it is presence of purpose. It's about understanding that your body is passage to something bigger. It's a channel of light. It is a temple of the Spirit. And when you live this truthfully, you don't just win an inner struggle, you unlock spiritual access. You become dangerous to the enemy. Because a chosen one who is aware of his identity, connected with his mission, and controlling his impulses, Nutter cannot be stopped. But of course, this process is not easy. You will fall a few times, you will feel weak at times. You will cry in silence feeling like you are disappointing God. But even in these times, God does not abandon you because He knows your heart. He knows the strength of His battle. And He didn't choose you because you were perfect. He chose you because He knew you could handle being shaped, that you could withstand the fire of the desert, that you would get up even after you fell. Therefore, every time you overcome an impulse, you are not just controlling yourself, you are fighting for something eternal. You are honoring your calling, and that transforms your story. You are at war, but you are winning. Because the greatest victory is not the absence of struggle. It's going on even with tears, even with fear, even with desire, saying, I'm still yours, God, I still want to please you, I'm still here. You may be there now, watching in silence with your heart heavy, perhaps even feeling ashamed of something. That happened recently, a fall, a memory, a wrong choice. And inside you a voice screams, why can't I beat this? Why am I like this? And the answer is deeper than it seems. It's not about you being weak, dirty, or impure. It has to do with what is at stake. It has to do with the strength of your calling. Because only those who carry a very high purpose are tempted in such delicate areas. Only those who have been separated by heaven face such violent temptations in their soul and body. The pain you feel, insolence, is a sacred pain. She is not common. It is the reflection of an invisible war that is being fought inside you, and that few have the courage to admit. You are not alone in this battle, not crazy, not lost. You are under construction, and every true construction generates pain. When God begins to shape a chosen one, He first sets him apart, then clean it. And this cleaning process affects everything. Memories, desires, traumas, impulses, secret habits. Sometimes temptation isn't outside, it's inside, planted deep inside, an emotional wound that has never been healed. There are people who carry strange desires and don't know where they came from. Sensual dreams, unexpected impulses, thoughts that seem to have no explanation. Sometimes it didn't come from you. It came from a spiritual break in the past, from something that entered your soul as a child, a traumatic experience, an early exposure, an absence of love, and that created a hole, a type of gap that the enemy is now trying to use as an entry point. But the good news is God sees. And what heaven sees, heaven heals. Your pain is not going unnoticed. Your nightly cry is being collected. And this temptation you experience today is in fact the place where your healing will begin. That's why you feel so torn. Because part of you already understands your value. Part of you already knows that you have been called, set apart, chosen. But another part still bears the marks of the flesh, still responds with impulses, still stumbles. He's still embarrassed. And this internal division causes deep anguish, as if you were always disappointing God. But let me tell you something, with all the spiritual authority I have to tell you now, you are not disappointing God. You are changing. You know that moment, in the morning when desire appears uninvited, that memory that appears out of nowhere, that video, that image, that conversation that destabilizes you inside. This has a name. They are specific temptations for specific souls, and your soul is rare. This is why attacks are personalized, because there is something unique about you. That hell tries to interrupt before you are even born. What you feel is not a coincidence. It is a direct reflection of the spiritual world around you, and the kingdom's greatest soldiers face the greatest pressure before the decisive battle. Have you ever noticed that these struggles increase just when you decide to dedicate yourself more? When do you start fasting, seeking, praying more intensely? Suddenly it seems like everything is against you, and the desire comes back with more force. This happens because the enemy senses what you are about to unlock. He knows you're one step away from breaking an ancient spiritual chain, and that's why he attacks with everything. He tries to knock you down before your new phase begins, but pay attention. If the attack has increased, it is because heaven has already released something new on you, and hell is trying to stop you from receiving. You need to understand your body is being trained. Your soul is being restored, and what seems like temptation is battlefield. God is using this to purify you, to forge your identity, to turn your pain into ministry. You are not a prisoner of desire. You are a warrior in the midst of a process. Only those who are greatly loved by God are cut like this. Only those who carry a light that bothers the world are pursued by such dense shadows. And even if no one knows what you feel, even if no one understands the internal wars you fight, when no one is watching, God understands. He knows your heart. He sees the effort that no one else sees. He recognizes every tear swallowed, every prayer made in the midst of guilt, every attempt to get up after the fall. And to God, this is worth more than any appearance of holiness. Because what matters to Him is what happens in secret. It is there in the place where only you and He know that your story is being written. And you know what? Many people who today preach, heal, prophesy once lived the same pains that you experience. They were also tried. They also stumbled. They also thought they couldn't handle it. But they were healed. They have been restored. Because God doesn't call those perfect. God calls the willing. And if you're still here, still searching, still trying to understand why this pain won't go away, it's because you're one of those, a chosen one, a separate one who will leave this desert stronger than he entered. You may think you are being tested, but in reality you are being tested. Cut. There is a profound difference between being punished and being trained. The enemy accuses, but God prepares. And what you are experiencing now, this tension, this desire that seems to want to consume you from the inside, is not the end of your spiritual journey. It's the beginning of an elevation that you can't yet see. This desire, which so many people call weakness, can become your greatest strength if it is understood with the eyes of the Spirit. Because you're not just facing an impulse, you're facing the mirror of your mission. God allows you to walk through these pains, not to destroy you, but to shape you more precisely. Every time you look inside yourself and recognize your inner war, you are being sculpted like a rare jewel. And jewelry only shines after a lot of friction. You are going through a spiritual testing ground. This is real. You may not be seeing everything that is moving in the invisible world right now, but it is happening. With every choice you make, even in pain, even in the midst of temptation, heaven records it. And what today seems like just a silent renunciation, tomorrow will be yours. Public testimony of overcoming, because God will use what tried to destroy you to lift others up through you. This is why many chosen ones feel that their struggle is different, because it really is. You are not like the others. Your calling is different. And where there is an extraordinary calling, there is also an unusual level of trial. You feel the desire intensely because you feel all with depth. The pleasure that calls you tastes like comfort. But what God is building in you is much greater than comfort. God is shaping you to free others with your story. You will talk about your struggle with freedom. You will advise others with authority. You will look back and see that what embarrassed you most, it was what God used to reveal His glory through your life. Your flesh will be converted into altar. And what causes you pain today, tomorrow will be healing for others. Believe me, you are not living all this for nothing. Your every tear is watering a purpose that is about to blossom. This cutting is slow, sometimes painful, but she is holy, and it is necessary because the chosen are not just sent, they are formed. And this formation happens within, in the place where no one sees, in the closed room, in the torn soul, in silent screams. And God, who sees all this, is lifting you up stronger than ever. Not because you don't have flaws, but because you have delivery. Because even when you fall, you want to get up. Even in guilt, you cry out. And that's all God needs to continue transforming you. And now that you understand how purposeful this fight is, I want to invite you to do something powerful. If this video spoke to your soul, write here in the comments, "My fight has purpose." Declare this in a prophetic voice. This phrase is not just a comment. It is an affirmation in the spiritual world. Is it you saying that you will no longer be ashamed of the process, but it will use the process as a bridge to your destination? And if you're here for the first time, or if you've already been following this journey with us, subscribe to the channel now. This is the chosen channel of those who feel too much, of those who fight in silence, of those who have an invisible mission, but an eternal calling. Every video here is a revelation. Every word is a cure. Each message is an awakening. Activate the bell so you don't miss anything, because you are being honed. And when your time comes, no one will be able to stop the brilliance of your mission.